Thank you for joining us in this session of Spokane Public Schools Keep Learning Series for Literacy. Today's lesson is for all our fifth graders out there, and any child who is interested is welcome to join us. My name is Mrs. Rich, and I'm a fifth grade teacher at Woodridge Elementary. I will be your teacher for this lesson. I'm so glad you are participating with me today. This is our second lesson in this series. If you didn't see our previous lesson, you can find it on the KSPS website. You can still tune in to today's lesson if you haven't seen any of our others. Today we'll be learning how to determine author's purpose for writing a text using text evidence to support your thinking. For today's lesson, you will just need pencil and paper. I'll go ahead and give you a moment to gather your supplies. Okay, let's get started. So today's lesson is called Kids Changing the Community. And our focus today is going to be author's purpose. So we'll take a look at our schedule here and then we'll get moving on. Okay, so first we're going to review. We're going to review key points in Linda and Darnell's plans that we read about last time. We're going to discuss the theme of Darnell rock reporting. We have a new text to take a look at, and then we'll determine the author's purpose of that text. Okay, let's start by reviewing key points in both Linda and Darnell's ideas that we talked about in Darnell rock reporting. So Linda's idea for the empty lot was to create a parking lot for teachers. And she thought if we support teachers, then in turn we support kids. Now Darnell believed we should create a community building out of that, community garden out of that space. He thought this would help train kids and train homeless people in how to raise food for themselves. And it allowed people the opportunity to learn to help themselves. Now, the theme of our story, I believe, was compassion. Darnell recognized a need in his community, and he wanted to do something about it, and that really demonstrates the idea of compassion. Looking out for your neighbors and not just kind of standing by, but doing something about it. All right, so for today's focus, it is author's purpose. And we want to kind of keep these questions in mind as we're reading our website today. Why did the author write the story? What was the reader to take away from the text? And just for us, why is author's purpose important? So let's take a look at the different choices we have for author's purpose. Perhaps the author wanted to persuade us or convince the reader of something. Maybe he or she wanted to just inform us. That's just providing information, but with no slant of whether they thought it was good or a bad idea. Explain, that's when the author provides different steps we can take to follow directions or to complete a task of some sort. Maybe it was to entertain. Like a lot of our enjoyable reads are just for entertainment purposes. It's not to get us to think about anything. And finally, describe, where the author uses a lot of sensory details and figurative language to tell us about a topic in great detail. So why would we need author's purpose? Well, it really helps to determine how we're going to read, because there's lots of different ways that I talk to my students about, how are we going to read this text? If it's just for entertainment purposes, I might read quicker and do some thinking and some questioning, but maybe not to the extent if I'm reading a persuasive text that's trying to convince me of something. So I'm really focusing in on reading slowly and looking at the arguments that they are presenting. If I'm reading an explanatory text, I need to make sure and follow those steps exactly. So a lot of times I'm a little bit slower when I read those because I want to make sure I don't miss out on something so my final product turns out correctly. So keep those in mind as we are reading our text, and let's head there next. All right, the title of this lesson was, Can Kids Make a Difference in the Community? So Darnell really, when he talked to 3B Jones, discovered that he really wanted to help make a change in his community and meet the needs of people that were struggling. So my question to you is, do you think you could do anything to make your community a better place? I'm wearing one of the t-shirts from a place where my students at my school volunteer for. It's called Generational Live, and they are a Spokane-based group in which kids learn how to raise money to make meals for Second Harvest. And I've done this for several years, and they're an amazing group, but it's a way for kids to learn that, hey, I can give back. Even at, my age, there doesn't have to be restrictions. Sometimes there's lots of things that kids can do. So let's head to our website and see what suggestions they give us. So we are on a website today, and the article on this website is titled, Be a Volunteer. You've seen people in need on the news after a hurricane, earthquake, or other disaster. Perhaps you've walked past homeless people who are living on the streets, or maybe you've been to an animal shelter and wished you could give every pet a home. So what can you do to help people or animals who need it? The answer is volunteer. Volunteering means spending some of your free time helping others. You may volunteer to help other people, such as the families who lost their homes after a natural disaster, but you can also volunteer to protect animals, the environment, or any other cause that you are about or you care about. You help yourself by helping others. So a few lessons ago, we talked about text features. So for this article, that's really going to be key for us, because remember, headings are going to let us know what this whole section is about. So we want to key in on those. And this particular one is about helping yourself and helping others. So volunteering doesn't just mean helping others. There really is so much that you get back from it. And that's what this is trying to show you. Volunteering helps others, but it can help you too. If you're upset about something that's happened, like a hurricane or other disaster, doing something about it can be a great way to cope with your feelings. Volunteering also lets you see your own life in new ways. Sometimes it's easy to worry about stuff like grades or getting annoyed because you don't have the most expensive sneakers or the newest computer game. Volunteering lets you spend some time focusing on others for a while. Lots of people and kids find that they really enjoy volunteering. Volunteer experiences often put you in a different environment and expose you to people and situations that you wouldn't have come across in your regular life. For instance, you might learn that just on the edge of your town are some kids who really need winter clothes. It feels good to be able to meet a need like that. You'll know that thanks to you, some kids have warm coats, hats, mittens, and boots. So whether it's winter clothes, food for the hungry, or homes for unwanted pets, doing volunteer work means one very important thing. You make a difference in the world. So where do you start? So this is all about how to get going if you're interested in volunteering. Some of you may already know about volunteering and service through 4-H, Boy Scouts, or Girl Scouts. Religious organizations like churches, synagogues, and mosques also organize volunteer and charity work. School is another good place to start if you're looking for volunteer ideas. Ask a teacher, school counselor, or librarian for ideas. Your local parks department also might have some suggestions for how kids can volunteer. Some places want volunteers who are 12 or even older, depending on the job. Often kids start volunteering by working alongside their parents. For instance, you might be too young to prepare food at a soup kitchen, but if your parents volunteer there, you might be able to go along and pitch in. One girl sent us an email, said she helps out at a soup kitchen by playing cards with the homeless people who eat there. It's nice to see them smile, said Sammy, 13. And something I do in my classroom, every week we have community building. And so we get with another class and together we do things to help out our community. And it's been a really fantastic experience. We've done it for several years now. And the kids have really learned that it's super easy to give back. It doesn't take a lot of money. Sometimes it takes no money. It just takes time and a thought of who you want to help and how you're going to go about doing that. Things to do with parents or family members. Volunteering is a great way to have fun with your family. Talk to your parents, brothers, or sisters and see what they might be interested in doing. Find something you all agree on. Here are some ideas for things you can do as a family or with a group that has adult supervision. Clean up a park or along a river. Plant trees or flowers in your local community. Serve food at a homeless shelter. Deliver meals to people who are elderly or ill at home. Clean up a school or other public building. count wildlife, or plants for environmental groups. All right, the next one, invent your own opportunity. Kids can also come up with their own ways to raise money or provide needed services. Here are some ideas. Make and sell products and donate the money to charity. Collect or earn money for charity. Start your own charity group. Some schools now require kids to spend time in service to others. Why? Because grown-ups hope kids will become caring people who see the value in giving of their time, talents, and resources, like money, toys, or clothes they might donate. Volunteering gives kids a taste of responsibility because people are depending on them for something important. Volunteering can also help kids learn important stuff about themselves, like what kinds of things they're best at and enjoy the most. A volunteer job can even help some kids decide what they want to do when they grow up. So what are you waiting for? Make a plan and start volunteering today. So I brought a couple ideas along that we've done in our class in case you're interested in volunteering. So something that we're doing this year is making these rocks. And we're going to make a rock garden, but now that school is postponed for a little bit, we've been setting these out so people can find them on their walks. And a lot of times that kind of makes people's day. I also have kids that are making cards for other people and just dropping them on doorsteps. Just takes time. You just have paper and color and just leave a sweet message for somebody. And you may not even know them, but that's okay. Everybody likes just a happy message on their door when they wake up. And then another thing we've done is we've made those no-sew blankets, and then we use the corners of those and stuff them with rice and a little bit of essential oil. You can make hand warmers for people, or something that they can just put under their pillow so their pillow smells good at night. So these are easy things that are inexpensive and free and something that maybe you could do to help out people that you love. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the author's purpose. So let's head back to our PowerPoint. Before we get to the actual activity, I just want to remind us of the options that we had for author's purpose: persuade, inform, explain, entertain, or describe. All right, we're ready to try it out together. So we're going to use the text to help us decide why the author wrote the article. Now, it's really key, and I have to tell my students this all the time, that you look for evidence throughout the whole article. If you only find it in one location, a lot of times that's not what the entire article or the entire story, the purpose for that. So you need to make sure that when you choose your purpose, you can find evidence throughout the entire story to really solidify that that is the reason why the author has written the story. So I went back and looked at things and I said, you know, I'm going to say that the author's purpose was to persuade us. And so I went back and found details. So that's what we're going to start with here, are the details on the really strong persuasive language. So the first detail, so what can you do to help people or animals who need it? The answer is volunteer. That exclamation point really kind of sets that one in. Our second detail, volunteering helps others, but it can help you too. So they're really trying to demonstrate that it's not just a one-sided thing, that as a volunteer, you get just as much out of it as the people do or the animals who you volunteer for. And finally, so what are you waiting for? Make a plan to start volunteering today. They're asking for that call to action, do something about it. So that's really key in a persuasive text. So for our author's purpose, I said, the author's purpose is to persuade the reader to volunteer in their community. It uses encouraging words that promote doing something to help your community be a better place to live. So here's your independent activity on author's purpose. Now it's your turn. Use the same website and prove to me why you might argue that the author's purpose is just to explain. So use 3 pieces of evidence from the text to support this idea. And you might say, well, we said that it was to persuade. How can it be both explain and persuade? But something I always do in my classroom is, we might have different ideas on things. If you can find the tech support to prove your idea, I am willing to think about things in a different way. So I want you to find text evidence that really demonstrates that someone could argue, hey, maybe it's to explain instead of persuade. It was great working with you again today. I look forward to seeing you next time.